welcome to the next episode of the Teralon Talks podcast. Today we've got a pretty cool special guest.
Hey, what's going on here? What's up, Barry? Took you long enough.
Yeah, like I said, special guest today. Today we have in our new employee, Max Williams. There he is. There's the normal voice.
Yes, this is my real voice.
Multi-talented, very talented guy. He's our new junior editor and also soon to be famous voiceover talent, maybe.
Possibly.
So Max joined us in August, correct?
Yes.
So it's been just over 2 months. Teralon had a need in the pipeline for more editing capacity, and we sent out the search over the summer for a new junior editor, and we're finally getting around to getting him on the podcast here so we could introduce him to all of you guys, tell a bit of his backstory, and we'll go over really just how to become a freelance video editor, how to get into the editing career, how to kind of market yourself as a video editor, and all sorts of things along the way with that. So how about we start off with just a quick introduction of your background, how you got here, how you ended up working here at Teralon with all of us.
Yeah, well, it first began when I was doing my impressions for my friends. I first started doing my impressions of teachers, and then that kind of expanded through to doing impressions of real people and celebrities and cartoons. So then I was like, how could I get this online and let people see it? So I started uploading these videos to YouTube, and then that's kind of what sparked my interest in editing as a whole. And then I got here a year after uni, and then first started in the United States, doing freelance stuff. I worked in Idaho in Sun Valley, where I made short reels of summer gigs, and used all different techniques like hyperlapsing and that kind of thing to sum up what happened in their summer and a way to advertise what goes on in the summer of Sun Valley. And then I went on to a company called Blue Door, which is based in Laguna Beach. And then I did a bunch of property videos for them. So the cameramen and women would go around the houses and shoot each room, and then it's kind of the editor's job to showcase that property, and that's how they would market it on the retail websites and everything. And then after that, I was needing a full-time job, and then I stumbled across Teralon, and after that I went for my interview, and which was a lot of fun. I think one of the main reasons how I kind of got involved was due to you kind of have to stand out. There are different ways to try and market yourself and stand out from the crowd. And my sort of technique for that was just be extremely professional, wear a suit to the interview and everything. And then I also went, I took a step before even going for the interview, and I messaged the owner, Julian, and was like, I just wanted to say, I've seen some of your content on your page, and I find that it's very cool. I've literally gone to all of your pages all over social media and watched each and every podcast that you've made, and tried to get to know the team before I even got there. So it's you can't just send an application to a company and expect to get it, because you kind of have to single yourself out. What makes you special? I was also thinking I could send in a letter as an alternative to an actual application, because that effectively is taking initiative. That's what people look for, I feel, when they're hiring.
Got to go the extra mile.
Yeah.
Make yourself stand out.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I didn't know you did all that stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy, but
No, it's not creepy. That's
I had to do it,
I think
wanted to get to know
that's quite
everybody.
good advice. Yeah, like it's funny wearing it. I didn't know you came in a full suit to like creative agency.
I did.
That's funny. No, that's good stuff. Yeah, so let's kind of take it back to you originally got into it because of the voice stuff you were doing.
Yes.
So just as a kid, you liked kind of creating these voices, and when did that come about?
Yeah. It first came about when I was doing impressions of my teachers. And so we had teachers who had very peculiar voices. And they were all certain characters. We had a Welsh teacher called Mr. Hughes. And, he used to always send people out of his classroom. So then every time he did that, I would kind of, mimic what he was doing. And they got a lot of laughs from the class. So, and then I don't know why, but I just had a knack for like mimicking celebrities' voices. I could just kind of watch what they were doing and like see their diction and everything. And it was like, oh, well, I should definitely try and put this online. And then, because the way of showing, the way of like marketing yourself has developed over the years, like, you used to just you didn't really have video. Like using YouTube is another way to show what you're doing and like kind of keep things entertaining. So then, I started to edit these videos, and that really helped me along the way in terms of my understanding of how to edit and using all these softwares. I didn't always use Adobe Premiere wasn't always my go-to. I started on like really old softwares, but then like you kind of have to keep with the times.
Right.
Yeah.
So initially, it's an interesting path. I don't think I know of any video editor that got into video editing because they like to create voices. I guess from there, did you know that you wanted to go into video editing because of that? And that's kind of just the path that it's always taken. Did you end up going to school for it?
Yes.
How'd that work out?
Yeah, no, I have always had that in the back of my mind that I wanted to go down the route of something which included technology. I studied music technology, always was very interested in music. And then I went and decided to go for film school, which I did for 3 years. And then that's a lot there are obstacles for editors and people who don't really know what they want to do with, whether they want to get into this industry or not, which path do they want to choose. So that really helped me to choose exactly what occupation I wanted to choose, because it kind of gives you, it outlines what you want to do, because they set you different tasks and then you are sort of learning alongside other people, and you're all kind of making mistakes together, but trying to reach the same goal. So I felt like I really did get a lot out of film school. Had I not gone, I think I probably would have still reached the same point. However, it may have taken longer for me to decide. So it was like the star in the distance showing me where to go. But yeah, I would definitely recommend going in this country compared to the United States.
Why is that?
It's a lot cheaper.
Just like schooling in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go, try and go here.
So what's your, what's your connection with the United States? You said you worked in Ohio or Idaho for a while, Laguna Beach. How does that work out? Because you're born and raised in the UK. Yeah. Obviously you're working here now. So how did that happen?
Well, my dad moved there like 15 years ago. And he just moved because, they wanted to start this new life and everything. So I went like twice a year. And then my dad actually worked within the industry, within like the media industry already. So he kind of knew a few people and like set me on the way to that. And then I got like a bunch of experience going to a post house. There was a post house called Dark to Light Productions. which was like super helpful in terms of making. That's where I made all these summer videos and like marketing videos. So yeah, I'd say that's where my real education was before university. And then that's where I tried to like kind of hone those skills at uni. So yeah.
So did you say it was like really, really useful for you to have that hands-on experience, but also going to university was like equally as helpful for you?
Yeah. Because, you know, we all have like different interests growing up and everything, but then you're just trying different things out and you don't know 100% if that's what you want to do, because like, are you going to reap the rewards from it? But going and actually seeing what goes on at these houses and these post houses, that kind of like told me, yeah, you should go and like further the education that you're getting here. Because, you know, I could have stayed there. I could have stayed in the States, but at the time I just didn't feel like it was the right decision. I just wanted to kind of stay in England, which is what I knew. And then anything that happened post uni will happen, kind of thing.
Gotcha. So I guess the big thing is people like want to know if they should go to university or, you know, dive right into the career field basically. But because you didn't exactly know what you wanted to do, so was university quite helpful in that aspect because you got to, I guess, experiment with a lot of different things and kind of explore all those different areas before kind of pinpointing the tracks that you wanted to take?
Yeah. It was super helpful because it wasn't just like the same sort of dogmatic view of one thing. It was quite vast. Like I was able to create things using cameras as well. Like we had like C200s, we had Red Dragons, we had, there's quite a lot of opportunity. So they also tasked us with go out, shoot, and then edit what you've shot. And that was like where, you know, if you're going to make mistakes, now's the time. And then later on, you won't make too many of those mistakes because you've been through it with your classmates and everything. So yeah, I would say that it was a good decision to go to uni and kind of like finish what I'd started in the States.
Gotcha. Obviously, since you've worked in the States, so have I. What kind of differences do you see between the industry in the States versus over here? Because I do think they can be quite a bit different.
Yeah, there are some differences. I feel like there's a little bit more of a laid back feel. Well, certainly where I was in Idaho.
Maybe explain to people where Idaho is just for a second.
Yeah, Idaho is like the sort of Midwest area of the States. And it's like they're known for their potatoes. They're known for growing their potatoes.
Idaho potato.
Yeah. But they're all like just lovely people. Where I went was lovely. Anyway, Sun Valley is kind of like North Idaho. So you go up into the mountains, and I think it's like 6,000 feet above sea level. So yeah, it was.
How many people live in Idaho?
Oh, that's a good question. You know? Really testing my knowledge with.
Or how about where you lived? Sun Valley is a resort area,
yes,
right?
Yeah. How many people? I'm not 100% sure in Sun Valley, but in where we went for our like vacation areas, we used to go to a place called Stanley, and that had like a population of 100 people, which was it was hilarious. So it was kind of like the little guy would live there, you know. There's a very unassuming way of living, and it's like, but they have places where you can rent out. And you know, that's where my parents had a place that we'd rent out, and then we'd go there when it's not being rented out as like a vacation area. But when I was there, you know, there was so much to do. You would go skiing because it's up in the mountains. It's a ski resort. So there was a lot of opportunity to shoot beautiful things. And I think that's one of the tricky things with editing. Is you want to create something beautiful, but then to try and get there is always like the struggle, but you shouldn't be deterred by that, because, you know, if you're really trying to create something beautiful, like you're doing something right. And if you're really struggling, you know, you're on the right path because you are trying to attain a new level of skill. So, that's like one of my key takeaways from when you're editing, is to persevere with it, because you are just trying to get to a new level, and you will get there as long as you kind of persevere along that line.
Interesting. So obviously, like, video editing and filmmaking go very hand in hand. You know, if you don't have like quality footage and like that stuff doesn't work out, it makes the editing process that much more difficult. You know, if an editor has a vision and doesn't match with the filmmaker's vision, those things kind of mesh. But I think editors work in very different ways. There's some editors, I guess, that would work more on like a film kind of timeline. Like the filmmaker goes out, gets really beautiful footage, and it all kind of just slots in. It was pre-planned, that kind of thing. There's those kind of editors that work on a timeline, and then there's more of like almost like the videographer term of like a video editor, where they can just like, they'll take a batch of footage from anything and everything and be like, can you create something out of this? Which one do you think you fall under?
Well, you mentioned that the director or filmmaker brings you a bunch of clips to do something with. I think it's important to try and adhere to the vision that they have laid out before you. So there have been times in the past where I haven't actually seen eye to eye with a director, and then I've like, you know, our sort of creative cohesiveness wasn't present. So I just said, you should try and be as professional as possible and try and extract your own ego and take on the director's ego. I would say that's like the best thing to do, because otherwise, two egos at once can delay the process. And then you're like, no, I want to do this, but the director sees another vision. So just try and extract your own and take on theirs. I have learned that just from like being around different directors. And I would say that I am more of a person who will listen to the director of whatever they want and like try and just be them, so to speak. It sounds odd, but like put myself...
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes, put myself in their position and how they would think and what they want. So, you know, I've made quite a few sort of documentaries in the past. And so I like to take beautiful shots and evoke emotion out of those shots in the best way possible. So to do that, like I'd have like a bunch of lo-fi music on in the background to kind of stimulate the left side of my brain. And then like for the right side, it's all like when you take certain clips out and put them in take them out of an assembly and organize them. So then I always feel like I need something going on during that process, because it's a painstaking process. I need lo-fi music that stimulates the left side of my creative brain. And then with the right, I'm like, oh, okay, I could just assemble these. So yeah, I would always say that I would prefer taking like beautiful shots and making the whole story out of that. Not just like random things that have been given to me. But then again, it's up to you to be creative at that point and create a story out of just random things that you've been given, because you have the license to do that when you've been given like a whole different assortment of things.
Because there's a lot of stages of it. What is your favorite part? As far as, you know, there's color grading, there's sound design, you know, assembling a timeline in a huge like production house. Those will all be separated out. But in somewhere like here, like Teralon, you know, we're a crew of 6 people. So our video editors do the whole thing from start to finish. So yeah, which part do you like? Is there any parts you absolutely can't stand?
Well, yeah, it's taking bits out from the assembly bit. That is really a a tough process. That's where I'd need the music on in the background to keep me going.
I think that's interesting. I don't think anyone's ever told me that they listen to music at the same time they're editing video.
Yeah. It's because I'm not really exercising any creativeness like at that point. So there's nothing on the timeline. I'm just like picking things out, like ciphering through the clips. So what am I going to use? That's like, I'm not
making you
using my
select
creative side. Yeah. But I don't know. I think I enjoy being under a certain amount of stress while I'm editing, which is kind of, that's quite an odd thing. But I think it's my personality. I like being under a little bit of like pressure because I don't know. I feel important when I'm doing something that really means something. So, you get these kind of miscellaneous projects which aren't always super enjoyable, but they've got to be done somewhere. They've got to be done. But like when it's like a major project, and then you have like a deadline, that's quite enjoyable, which is maybe not like a very popular thing.
So you enjoy the stress?
Yeah, a little bit.
You want the pressure?
A little bit, yeah, because it's like you have to be honed in at that point. If you're not, then you'll miss it. You'll miss the boat. You'll miss the deadline. So, I would say that a little bit of pressure is good to kind of keep you in the linear passage.
Yeah, actually, I think surprisingly, I think a lot of people would actually agree with that because there's this like fine balance between creativity and deadlines and having to get content out, right? Like you can be as creative as you want to be, but if you have no deadline, the perfectionist of like a general creator or like anyone in that kind of industry will just be like, it's not quite good enough yet. It's not quite good enough yet.
Yeah.
Oh, I can make this tweak. I can make this change. When in the end, like you need to ship a product, like you've got to get it out.
Yeah.
So having those deadlines at least puts a stopping point where you'd be like, this is what I can put into it. And when you have to have it done by then.
When you're under that little bit of stress as well, like the reward is so great. Like you get a rise in dopamine levels because you're like, oh, this is keeping me under so much stress. Am I going to be able to finish this? And when you do, the payout is great. And that's kind of like the addictive thing when it comes to editing. That's why I would put editing on the pedestal above any other occupation or like area, because you're sat down focusing on something and then it's your job. The shots have been laid out for you and they've been collected. So it's up to you to like bring them all together and create the story, work together with the director. That even if you're not working with the director, you can, if you go out and collect the shots yourself and, you put them online and you show your friends, like all of a sudden, you're not just an editor, you're a director as well. So like that you don't have to stay down the same line, right? On the same thing. You can go and shoot things for yourself. And then if people are enamored with what you're doing, then there's like other opportunities you could take. Be a director, be a cameraman, be a sound guy. But when it comes to editing, I would say that one of my favorite things to do is getting colors right is oddly satisfying, because not everyone has like the eye for that, and it's kind of like you either have it or you don't, or you can train for it over a certain amount of years. And like I feel like the differences, seeing the differences on a canvas, so to speak, on a project, is oddly satisfying when you get it right, when it's just the right amount of warmth, when the mood is suited by what colors you're picking. That is very satisfying.
Yeah, let's talk a bit about, you had mentioned that your left side and right side of the brain. I don't know much about this, but it sounds like you've looked up a little bit. You said you put on music as you're editing, at least in the initial phases. What's that have to do with your concentration and left side and right side of the brain? And I don't know, maybe which side of the brain do you use your voices for?
Well, I'd say that more so my voices are used using the left-hand side of the brain, because that's just where the creative process is happening. But I don't know. I would say that I would use, because I'm quite a visual person, right? So if I'm ever looking at like reels or any video of the sort, I'm most enamored with visuals. So it's probably just the makeup. Everyone has a different makeup. But say if I was receiving like applications, or if I was sending out applications to work somewhere, then I wouldn't just send out a written formal letter. A way to sort of market myself appropriately would be to send them a visual aid, and that's a reel of like all the works that I've done before. And that all the works I've done before is like the impression stuff. So it's like, now I don't think you need a 2-minute compilation of of your works, because that's how a lot of the time you get work is, or it used to be anyway, but it's changing. So I'd say it's important now to have like a social media presence. And that can be a way to show people your work. But to answer your question, I would say, it's mainly left side. The right side, it probably dips in and out between left and right, because I've done it so much now that it's just like clockwork. I don't really think about it.
You're kind of just getting in and out. 1 minute you're Peter,
and 1 minute you're just normal. So it's like, I just dip in and out of voices.
How long did it take you to perfect that?
Well, I've always loved Family Guy anyway. No, there are different voices I can do, but I can't really. You'd have to give me examples, but I don't know. That could be risky. You giving me a random voice of me not being able to do it.
Give me your top 3. We got Peter Griffin.
Yeah, Pete is one of the. Stewie's obviously one of them. Smeagol from Lord of the Rings is pretty accurate. I can give you a little renditions.
How about which one can you talk in the longest? You think you could do Stewie for a bit?
Yes, of course. I could do Stewie for a long time. Stewie could be done the whole podcast, but depends how long we have.
And then Smeagol was,
Yes, stupid fat hobbit. How long left? How long is this going to take, Perry?
Those are really good.
Yeah.
I think those are really good. Obviously, I think you've been working on them for quite some time.
I have, yeah.
Which one have you been doing the longest? Peter Griffin.
Peter, for sure. Yeah. That's the one I always start with, because I had this one video which was like 70 impressions in like a minute. And I started with that, with Peter, and then went off to...
You can do 70 impressions.
70, yeah.
Can you do all 70 in a minute right now?
Well, that could be a whole separate video. That's tough.
I think we'll have to burn that back out.
Yeah. I don't know. That could make an appearance at some stage. But I would go on from like Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, a little bit of SpongeBob, like Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob. It's very difficult and very risky to try just absolutely off the bat. It could go completely wrong. And when it's live, it's very risky.
Oh, that's fun. I guess let's bring it back a bit to the. You mentioned quite a lot about how to market yourself, and you keep bringing that up. How can people really stand out? What you've done is quite creative to get this job specifically, but just throughout their career, what's kind of the best ways that you've learned and how to market yourself, how to become and get to the stage that you're at now?
I would say hang out with people who you want to be like. So for me, I always wanted to go to an environment where I could be around other editors and try and learn off them. Because no matter what stage you get in your career, you can always learn. Like you can't be that obtuse to think that you know everything. So I always said to myself, just kind of be a sponge of everyone you meet, and then you will get to where you want to be. You have to pretty much, most footage, right, is in 24 frames per second, right? So like
25 over here, but
25,
yeah.
right. But that just means you're making 25 decisions a second, really, when you're editing. So it's like, it can get complex with what you're doing, but it's important to, find ways to motivate yourself, and you're kind of always battling with yourself to stay motivated, to stay within what you're doing. So that's like another sort of challenge, is to always find a way to motivate yourself and reach the end goal. So yeah, I would say meet people, try and look for people, message them. Don't just message them without like an actual story as to why you're going to talk to them. You can't just be like, hey, like, you have to have a reason for chatting to them.
Offer something as
Absolutely.
well. Yeah.
There has to be, like, for when I wanted to join Teralon, I reached out to Julian and messaged him and said, this is why I think I would benefit the company. It's like, you can't just, I would like to join the team of like people who are like pretty much masters in the craft, or want to be, who are masters. So then like you have to say, I'm not just going to be a jack of all trades. Like I want to specialize in something particular. So like, don't necessarily be a jack of all trades, be like master of one,
Yeah, I think that's quite good. I think a lot of people actually kind of, I wouldn't call it a mistake, but kind of take that line of thinking where like, oh, I can just be like so good at everything, or like try to do so many things. But the problem with that is like, you can become good at a lot of things, but if you're spending your time doing all of these different things, you will never get insanely good at one thing, because someone else will do it before you, because they're spending the time doing it and learning it day in and day out. And it doesn't mean that you can't be good at other things. It just means that like, if you want to stand out and if you want to offer something unique, there is like at least one niche or one like type of thing that you need to get really good at.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people in this day and age are good at a lot of things.
Right.
But there's not many people that pass that level of like just being really good at a lot of things. To become a master at something takes years of work and dedication and doing something in and out hundreds of times over.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think also a lot of our generation kind of lacks that motivation to stay committed to one thing for that long as well. So if you can do it in this day and age, you are standing out already.
Companies or employers will always like look for people who are masters of their craft within a certain area, and they will be willing to spend more on you because you are, specifically catered to that area. Or they could spend less money and go for someone who's like a jack of all trades. But then, you'd spend like 500 on someone who could do a small project relatively well, or you'd spend like, I don't know, 10 grand on someone who's going to create something for you. And they know once you've done that, they will rely on you for the future, So it's like, it's important to create a rapport with people you've worked for in the past. And then they know that they can always go to. From a freelance standpoint, that's specifically relative.
Definitely as a freelancer, you want to kind of mark out, or like make your mark in like a specific kind of way, because you're obviously up against all these other freelancers. And usually companies are looking for like a specific style or a specific like need or a thing. And that's how you can kind of market yourself. When you're a freelancer, it's like, oh, I do this thing like really well. This is why you should use me for your project. Can you give me your, I don't know, do you have like a number one piece of advice you give to like your 16-year-old self? Give it to me, Peter Griffin.
Well, this is what you gotta do, son. You gotta make sure that you get the right education. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. You gotta go to school and make sure that you listen, and no matter what happens, you make plenty of mistakes, That's not a problem. That's all part of the learning. That's what it's all about.
That's what Peter would say to his son anyway. But I would certainly back that up and say that, you know, it's never too late, or you can always learn. That's the main thing. So no matter what, even if you're a master, there's always someone who's going to be better than you. So you can be an open book, and, you know, if you're not working, if you're in a comfortable position as like a freelancer, for example, then go and learn first, come back so you can get new opportunities, and to kind of work at a high level once you've perfected those learnings. Those are the keys I would say is education.
Yeah, I agree. Like being like a lifelong like student, almost, like never get to a point where you're arrogant enough that you think you know everything, because there's always something that someone else is going to be able to teach you, whether or not like on an overall level you think you know more than them or not. You could be a video editor for, 40 years, but some kid coming out of university could probably teach you something that you didn't know. And like, why would you not be willing to soak up that knowledge? There's always something you can be learning. And I mean, that applies to almost any career field, really. But yeah, definitely within the creative industry where stuff changes so fast. Like our editing programs are constantly changing. Video styles are constantly changing, the way we deliver things, the way we film things, all that stuff is just a product of, when it comes down to it, a product of what society demands. And our needs and wants constantly change. So if you're not open to learning new things all the time, you're definitely going to fall behind.
I think that, honestly, during the sort of COVID time, the pandemic, while that was happening, we really missed coming into work. And, sort of, that was like what makes us human as well, is sort of all coming to one place and reaching the goal, the same goal. And in like an ever-changing environment like the one that we're in, we have to anticipate what people want. We have to look at how videos are being made and kind of stay on trend. So it's important to kind of know what's going on in the overall landscape of video creation, and then you come together as a group, and then you kind of just spark different ideas off each other. And I feel like we really missed that during those two years away. So it's amazing to be back in an area now where we can all be under the same roof and sort of spark different ideas off each other.
Is that kind of one of the reasons, I guess you wanted to work here with Teralon?
For sure.
Because, you were kind of freelance, kind of around different places before that.
Yeah. Now it's kind of like there is a certain feel within this group that you can, you can never shy away from sharing your true sort of how you feel about something. And there will always be, sort of taken in, and it won't be discarded. It won't be discarded. It's always taken in very well, no matter what you say. And it obviously has to be relevant, but there's definitely a family feel about what goes on, and that's what makes us so cohesive, and why we managed to like churn out project after project in just the best way possible. I think I've only ever worked in small groups, but there's no biasness to anyone who I've ever worked with in the past, but this is by far and away my favorite experience so far, only because, and I'm not just saying that, it's like there is a genuine feel that, everyone is working to the same goal, and we all have sort of different views that come together in a certain way that always creates the best outcome. That's how I've seen it. It's like everyone has their own particular skill set, and without one, it would be lesser for it. Like the final outcome would be lesser. So it's like everyone has been strategically picked for the best possible outcome. And that's what I really like about it. And it's like, it's very promising. That's my main takeaways. And I like being in Wandsworth. It's it's enjoyable. We were our team social, if you see on our social media, we're out on a lot of socials, so there's always a lot to do, and yeah, it's definitely one of the more fun environments that I've been in.
Good, glad to hear it.
Yeah. Otherwise,
shameless plug. But yeah, I guess, do you have any like passion projects of your own? Do you work on anything? I know you do your voices. You have your YouTube, which you've yet to show us.
Yes, yeah. In due course, yeah.
And yeah, is there any like, do you have any like standout like moments or big projects throughout your career that you think kind of either like defined what you wanted to do, or like, I don't know, just like really stood out and kind of put you on the path that you're on now?
Well, during university, I had this opportunity to make a documentary, and that was all about my granddad. And that was like one of the main reasons why Teralon was so pleased with my initial application, is because for that, my granddad's like 93 now, and he's done so many amazing things throughout his life. He's a former Labour Party MP, and he's like, a lot of exciting things have happened to him before. You could go check out the documentary I have. It's under my name, Max Lee Williams, but yeah, that was like the sort of main project that I focused on for a long time. And I wanted to evoke emotion throughout that. That was the main sort of aspect of that. And I feel it did. I mean, I sent it through to my lecturers, and the majority of them were in tears. It was like, it really did touch the heartstrings for that. So yeah, that's probably my one of my favorite projects I've done. Just a short documentary on my granddad. But yeah, I think there'll probably be more in the future. Probably some more voices I'll focus on. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I remember. I think we watched that documentary on the big screen over there when we had a handful of applications coming through.
I had the chance to narrate that as well, which was really fun. Yeah, as I gave it my best David Attenborough impression.
Did you? Let's hear it.
Well, it wasn't quite right, Penny.
It wasn't quite like it. It was just my normal voice. Yeah, no, it's very far off actually. That needs work.
You're gonna have to watch some more Blue Planet.
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
Frozen Planet, all of the above.
I gotta do it. I gotta watch more of it in due time.
Last question I'm gonna ask you is: you've spent quite a bit of time in the US, but you were born and raised here in Kingston. Am I correct?
Yeah, well, I was born in Kingston. Yeah.
So, which do you prefer? Idaho or London?
It's like choosing between your kids that you haven't had yet. That's tough. I have to say, they're so different, and all my friends are here, But in the United States, there's a lot to do. There's skiing, go mountain biking, you can go wakeboarding. So it's a close thing, just because of I've been brought up in this country for the majority. But
yeah, that's what
every time I would go to the States, it would be like twice a year. So, and then twice a year for about 2 months. So that's quite a bit of time.
Yeah, that's 4 months.
Yeah.
It's like a third of the whole year.
Yeah, So this is why I'm struggling to choose, but I would say the United States would win it for me. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But you're here.
Yeah. I think this is the right time to be here in my situation. Mm-hmm. But absolutely, I would never say.
So you're not ruling the US out?
Absolutely not. No.
Interesting. For those that don't know where Idaho is, what would be, or like what Idaho is really like. It's quite hard to describe, to be honest.
Yeah.
But what do you think would be a good comparison in the UK for Idaho?
Oh, well.
If you had to translate Idaho to England.
Because you get the southern parts of Idaho, which probably aren't the most easy on the eye. The backdrop is stunning, don't get me wrong, but it's the characters you would find there which are, probably less inclined to be your friend, shall we say, because you're an out-towner and, the hell you doing here? You stick out like a sore thumb. But then when you go up north...
Is that your Idaho accent right there?
It'll be more like this. Actually, in the south, it would sound more like that. But when you go into Sun Valley area, it's like a real sort of... it's like its own bubble. It's like a mix of like local LA, downtown LA, with... like a more sort of liberal side as well.
It's quite a touristy spot.
It's a real mix. Yeah. So you get plenty of celebrities going there. You get Arnold lives there, Katy Perry, all these people. Bruce Willis has a house there. So it's a nice ski resort. And a little bit of history behind that too. The first ever chairlift was created in Sun Valley. Yeah. So it has history behind it, and I think that's the one reason why people go there, why they flock there. It's because of that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've only been to Idaho for one day. I drove through it, and I got my car put in a boot.
Oh,
so
your car was in a boot.
Like what I call it, the lock, the boot,
clamp. You had clamp.
Got clamped.
God damn it.
I guess we call it a boot in the States, but a boot is a trunk.
Exactly.
It gets really confusing, I know.
Yeah. It does get confusing in the office sometimes. We're trying to refer to the same thing, but we're like, you're talking about something else.
Yeah, we do have quite an eclectic mix.
Yeah, we have a real eclectic mix of people. It's probably what makes us unique. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's probably it for this episode. But yeah, I really appreciate you coming on and giving us an introduction to yourself, telling us a bit about your backstory and why you chose to be here at Teralon. And it's been 2 months. We definitely enjoy having you here. Very good addition to the team. We hope you stick around for quite some time.
Heck, I'll be here all week. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thanks for having me.
Have it. Cheers, thank you all for joining on this month's episode, and we'll see you on the next one.